Monday morning arrived beneath low grey clouds that drifted across the Sussex hills. The great bell rang promptly at 6:30, and Ash House stirred into life once more. David Mercer was already dressed before most of the younger boys had climbed out of bed. "Come on," he called cheerfully. "If you're late for inspection, Miss Harcourt will know before you've reached the corridor." Andrew Collins laughed. "I think she knows everything anyway." It was a common opinion throughout Highdon. Miss Harcourt seemed to appear wherever untidy lockers, muddy shoes, or whispered conversations were most likely to be found. Within half an hour, the dormitory was immaculate. Blankets were folded tightly. Shoes stood in perfect lines beneath each bed. Windows gleamed despite the previous evening's rain. When Miss Harcourt completed her inspection, she slowly looked around the room before giving a brief nod. "Very satisfactory." From her, that amounted to the highest praise. The boys relaxed only after she had disappeared down the corridor. "One day she'll smile," whispered Peter. "I wouldn't count on it," David replied. Lessons passed quickly. Miss Blyton's English class was discussing Treasure Island, and before long the room was alive with talk of hidden maps, smugglers, and forgotten caves. David exchanged a knowing glance with Peter. Their own hidden discovery beneath the cedar tree suddenly seemed even more exciting. At morning break, the talk in the dining hall centred on another subject altogether. A fourth form boy had been sent to see the headmistress. Nobody knew exactly why. "Late 3 mornings running," one boy whispered. "No," another replied. "Talking back in mathematics." Whatever the reason, everyone knew that a visit to headmistress Miss Beauflower's study was never taken lightly. Miss Beauflower had been headmistress of Highdon for several years, and believed firmly that a boarding school could not run without discipline. She expected good manners, honesty, punctuality and respect from every boy in the school. When a quiet word or extra duties were enough, she preferred to use them. But for serious offences, she still kept the traditional implements of school discipline in the cupboard beside her desk. Inside hung a well-polished school cane alongside a black rubber-soled carpet slipper. Neither was displayed for effect. Every boy knew they were there, and that Miss Beauflower used them sparingly, but without hesitation, whenever she believed the school rules demanded it. The mere knowledge of that cupboard was often enough to keep most boys well behaved. "She's fair," David said quietly. Peter nodded. "Yes, but I wouldn't want to be sent to her study." No one argued. That afternoon, after games, the 4 friends returned to the tunnel beneath the old cedar tree. The leather-bound journal lay exactly where they had left it. This time, they read more carefully. The entries stretched across decades. Former pupils had written about snowy winters, dramatic rugby victories, mischievous practical jokes, and memorable teachers whose names had long disappeared from the honours boards. The journal also reflected how Highdon had changed over the years. Several older entries referred to the strict discipline that had once been commonplace in many English boarding schools. They mentioned inspections, detentions, and, on occasion, appearances before the headmistress, where the school slipper or cane might be used for particularly serious breaches of discipline. Later entries, written in the early 1970s, suggested that attitudes were beginning to change, with many members of staff placing increasing emphasis on guidance, responsibility, and earning respect through example, even though Highdon still retained many of its long-established traditions. Peter closed the book thoughtfully. "It sounds as though every generation thought the school was changing." David smiled. "And yet somehow it still feels like Highdon." Further along the tunnel they discovered another small doorway, partly hidden behind fallen bricks. Unlike the entrance beneath the cedar tree, this one was locked. A heavy iron keyhole sat beneath a coat of rust. "I wonder what's in there," whispered Simon. Andrew ran his torch across the old oak door. There must be another way in. Suddenly they heard footsteps overhead. The sound echoed faintly through the ceiling. Someone was walking across the chapel floor. The boys instinctively lowered their voices. For several long moments they stood perfectly still. Then the footsteps faded. David let out a slow breath. We'd better leave that door alone for today." Reluctantly, the others agreed. As they emerged into the cool evening sunshine, they found headmistress Miss Bowflower standing quietly on the chapel path. She looked towards them with her usual calm expression. "I trust," she said, "that your curiosity is matched by good judgment." The boys exchanged nervous glances. Miss Bowflower's eyes rested on each of them in turn. "There are many secrets at Highdon," she continued. "Some deserve to be discovered. Others are best approached with patience and common sense." For a brief moment her gaze settled upon the ancient cedar tree before returning to the boys. "The school has stood here for generations. It has witnessed great triumphs, difficult lessons and many adventures. Remember that every choice carries consequences." There was nothing threatening in her voice, yet every boy knew she meant exactly what she said. It was the same calm certainty she showed whether praising good conduct or, when necessary, administering the school's traditional discipline with the slipper or the cane. Without another word she continued towards the main building. David watched her disappear through the great oak doors. "I've a feeling," he said quietly, "that Miss Bowflower has known about those tunnels all along." Peter looked back towards the cedar tree. "And perhaps she's simply waiting to see whether we're responsible enough to discover the rest." The mystery beneath Highdon had become deeper than ever, and somewhere beyond the locked oak door, another chapter of the school's long history remained hidden in the darkness, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover it.